Welcome back to the Chapter 416 podcast, where we jump from strategy to storytelling, from competition to camaraderie. Whether you're here to sharpen your game, relive the glory days, or just enjoy some good Warhammer banter, that's what we're all about. And my name is Pajama Pants. That's Brad Chester. I'm very excited, Brad. I hope you are as well. And I want to talk about where you think the shifts, the changes, the dynamic flows, the chi force of the meta and where it's going.
I'm excited for the meta.
Me too.
Let me talk about what it is right now, though. The meta is in a weird spot. The meta's in a good spot for parity. People have been winning with almost everything. There's very few armies that are doing really badly, not winning stuff, not coming tops or close to the top. This is a very good time to just go, I can play almost anything. However, what has happened is we've got this weird dichotomy in most lists, not every list. We found the Marine list, the shooting list, the Chaos list. All are taking so many tanks, triple Vindicator, triple Ballistas, some Predators. You've got a bunch of guard lists with all tanks. You've got multiple lists that are just a shit ton of vehicles. And weirdly, usually you have like that plus some, hybrid list, and then you have a little bit of Horde. We've been getting a ton of either all tanks or all guys. Bridgehead with no tanks, 150 plus guys, GSC putting tons of people out there. We've got this weird meta where you face a ton of either this or that, as opposed to a little bit of everything, which has been the case for a while now.
How long has this been the case, actually?
No, I'm saying it was the case for a long time that you had to be really versatile. And right now is the first time in a while. And I'd say only like a month or two.
Yeah, the skew. That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
How long? Well, let me start. Let me take a step back, actually. Let's talk about the fact that it's very refreshing, I think, and obviously taken for granted by a lot of the newer players today, where the meta has the ability to shift this way. Think about when we were playing in the 2000s and the 2010s, when you would have a codex that just had huge gaping holes in strategy for years.
I like that, right? People bitch about scissors, paper, rock, and I know that's not how everybody says it, but I say it back.
Wait, time out. No.
I keep saying that. I'm going to say it forever.
No, that's not a thing. How do I not know this, knowing you for so long?
I've said this.
Scissors.
I started this forever ago. Yeah, it's completely janked.
That's never going to catch on. That's not like fetch or anything. That's not going to
saying this, and only recently have people been calling me out.
That's the dumbest way to call rock, paper, scissors I've ever heard. Like, you couldn't have combined the three words in a worse way. Wow. Okay. Let's move on. Yeah, let's move on, because that's just, maybe you're dyslexic. I don't know. That would explain a lot, actually. But anyways, going back to the way the meta works, you would have years of just not having the right codex. So it's pretty interesting how many changes and how many shifts are happening right now. And I'm kind of remembering, I'm reminiscing of the fact that there are cycles in this game. So when you tell me that the game has shifted from from what I gathered, a balanced version of the game, a balanced army list design and a balanced all-comer approach, to these somewhat skewed approaches where you're overwhelming your opponent with vehicles or you're overwhelming your opponent with infantry and bodies. Is that what you're seeing? What you're predicting?
You've seen more of it now. And it kind of came out really organically in just how these lists came about. Because you had people go, what is the best chaos list? Well, it really started, one of the main reasons it started is when you got Oath became +1 to wound for all the compliant chapters. So you had these double Oath versions and stuff like that. And people just went, what are the best shooting platforms for this? Also, you have, until we fix it, I still think it's annoying. I'm not going to continue on. I'll do that as a grind my gears. Everybody gets cover. So they're taking things like the Vindicator, which is a 2-up save tank, which is going to get covered because it just puts part of its ass behind a little bit of a wall. And then you've got a 2-up save that has access to armor and contempt and going to get cover. So you shoot a las cannon at it and it's taking a 3-up save. You know what I mean? So that's just a big deal on that. I can actually get back down to, huge, because you take pop armor contempt on that. And you saw a lot of people just pushing these out because it does good damage, it's very durable, and it went down in points. So you saw that a ton at Vegas. You saw some of it in the World Champs, and I think it's a big deal when people started spamming this. So obviously, people started bringing anti-tank guns. You saw a lot of that whole "you're bringing tanks, I'll bring a ton of anti-tank guns," but a lot of people just leaned into their armies and went, "Well, they got all these tanks. Well, cool. They only shoot X amount of times around. I'm just going to bring 200 bodies, put OC 50 on an objective, and just go. You don't get to score this game."
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they go back and forth. And I like that though, because I like counter. I like letting the meta solve itself. I do not want to go back to the old days of GW going, "Here's your codex, figure it out. We'll see you in 2 years." We're never updating.
And the community,
shit.
the community would have, a frontline would basically make an FAQ for all of the things
Well,
back.
yeah, but the big thing is that
Uh,
a lot of, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't get the changes. I think that we can get changes all the time. You see, like, basically everybody's used to a video game style
yeah.
where you
No, I
get
think it's
pop
good.
fixes all the
Yeah.
time. But I'm fine with it. I like it. I like them being involved. However, everybody's so quick to go, "You should nerf X that just came out." Most of the time, if you let them be okay for a little while, the meta a lot of times will
The
just
game will
adjust to
shift. Game
what
will
they're doing.
shift.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
they don't become. I think that it's small changes all the time. We're getting frequent changes, so we don't need to hit things with the Nerf bat so hard. What happens a lot right now is, something gets hit and the meta adjusts to how to play it, so they get swamped. I mean, there's been multiple
Yeah.
detachments that have kind of just been kicked out in the meta because people went, "Oh, this is how you play against this.
Yeah.
Cool." And they adjusted to it. And then the detachment so all of a sudden its win rate just jumped off a cliff. So we've seen that happen multiple times now. It happened just recently to Sisters. People,
Well, I can do a grind my gears episode on the fact that win rates shouldn't even be considered a thing, but
yeah,
that's a whole
well,
separate story.
the
There's
thing is that
there's some
GW,
stats in there and some other things
well,
that aren't being captured. So
yes. But there's also a big deal. I'll give you two things that are a big deal. One of the GW guys had this conversation with me a long time ago. And he said two things. One, it's hard for us to balance the game with the top players and everybody else. So if you've got a list that's winning at 53% and the top players are abusing it, if I nerf the top players, that army, so the top players don't win so much with it with the highest end of the tournaments, what happens to everybody else that was winning it 52%? Now they get smashed into we talked about this a million times. I talked to this, GW said this multiple times. They're way more worried about feels bad than they are about things being overpowered. They kind of don't give a shit. What they don't want is you to have a bad gaming experience, which is why some things get nerfed and other things don't, because something that's just powerful, but you can deal with it. Maybe something's too cheap, too fast, too powerful, but you can play against it, isn't the same thing as you getting a bunch of your army deleted and feeling like it gave you a feels bad. You can interact with
Well, I think
that.
interaction is really the key for avoiding like authentic feels bad. I don't like that expression because I think there's a bunch of introverts in this game who just feel bad talking to
Yeah,
someone.
I know.
So
But I'm
so
saying
like
that's their
whatever. Like
terminology. I said,
yeah, that's fine. As long as there's interaction, I really don't think that, interaction keeps the game competitive. Interaction keeps the game moving in a way that I think you've always had an ability to win. You had an ability to play. As long as that's true, I think we're good, right? Like that's my opinion.
oh, well, I've always liked high risk or basically high ceiling, low floor lists. And I think that just came out. We talked a little bit more on the previous cast. One of the things I like about it is it's going to have a weird effect because you have people already right now that are like, "This army is so broken." And then you have other people that are in forums going, "This army is trash." And you're going to get that very wide skew of opinions because you're going to have times when Eldar comes in, they use everything, they blow up 4 tanks in a turn. And
Uh,
then they flip.
Eldar Eldar has historically, just to jump in real quick, you divided the meta into two groups: the tank group and the mass bodies group. And Eldar's never been a mass bodies group.
Oh,
It has been a tank army a lot.
yep.
I don't necessarily think this next codex is a tank codex, but there's a third category that I know you love, and it's Horde of MSU.
Yeah,
It's like a
baby.
different kind of horde. It's not where you take 200 bodies, you take 90 bodies, but those 90 bodies are highly elite, specialized toolbox. I got
Y
my flathead screwdriver, I
You're
got my
getting that.
these needle nose pliers, like, you
I'm
got
playing that in Marines, and I'm playing that in my Eldar that's coming out. That's an army that's going to have a weird feels bads occasionally because the army is still a bunch of T3 one wound guys.
yeah,
Its natural enemy is anything indirect, but they still have that ability. 10 fire dragons, split fire, get sustained and lethals and kill 2 tanks, and then they backflip back into their transport, which is on the other side of a wall. That feels bad that you did that. But the thing is that you have to start preparing your armies. That's what we're going to talk a little bit about today, which is the meta shift, which is we've gotten so used to just going, I'm in a boom, I'm going to kill a big
yeah.
tank, do this. You're going back to more of a little bit of having to deal with lots and lots of more transports. The beginning of 10th, and I consider the beginning of 10th as always the first data slate because the game was for them. But like you had a lot of armies that
What are you
had,
talking about? Elder was great.
yeah, I didn't play them specifically because of that. But you're getting back to, hey,
47 wounds you can't do anything about.
yeah, accept it. 112 was the first 2 turns. No, that's still the real story on that one. But you're going to have to be able to kill the outside and get to the squishy middle. You have to blow up transports and then have something
Yeah.
behind it to kill the middle. And we
Well,
stopped having that.
I think there's a better army that can do that than Eldar. I think it's Guard right now. I think
Guard's the
Guard
Eldar killer.
Yeah.
Rich Head Guard will ruin Eldar. 3 units of mortar teams with all that stuff that deep strikes. Eldar points are actually not low. You're not going to have that much shit on the board.
You can't outpoint. There isn't enough point efficiency than the Guard book. Now, the Guard book, in my opinion, is nowhere near as internally balanced as the Eldar book. The Guard book has clear takes and clear way to play. The Eldar book, other than the Wraith Knight and like the Warhost and like let me kill my psychers and possibly the Avatar, like other than those things, everything else is relatively good.
You have a lot of stuff that's very equal and it's very playable. The Eldar
Yeah.
book did a very good internal balance of it. And I think it's a hit as a book because what they try to do, one of the things they strive for is making books that have multiple tournament worthy armies, like completely different. Like
Yeah.
Windrider Host is wildly different than Wraith. It's wildly different than Aspect. It's wildly different than Sea Council. And all of those can be taken to tournaments and done very well. I think the Guard has a couple, they have multiple attachments.
Yeah. Old time players would refer to the Chaos 3.5 Codex.
Yeah.
Or Grey Knight's
thing's
5th
so good.
edition. Yeah, Grey Knight's 5th edition. Like
Also,
Codexes
had multiple ways to play.
Codex that you could just build like 3, 4, 5 different GT 5-round just beer
Champs,
armies.
crushers.
Yeah. Just
But you're
Come at
going to
me.
have to start. I like this beats this beats this. And I think that people don't like having to change their lists, but you have to put in some stuff. If you can just keep Eldar, if you work the jab
the
against,
vast majority of people don't take a healthy list changing approach. And maybe that's because of
love it.
models.
I
Maybe
guess.
that's because of hobby, things you kind of typically ignore historically. And I guess
Hey,
now you're
you know
starting to get into.
what Brad brought to, by the time of this release, to the team tournament, a 100%. Well, Brad painted, but it was Snakes also based it because I hate basing because he's made me do it.
I love basing. Basing's probably my favorite thing. Other than converting, I love basing. Yeah, I love basing. I think bases and eyes are some of the most important details on a model that typically get overlooked. I also like drilling out the gun
barrels.
Yeah.
I want you to know that there's not an eyeball in my entire army.
I know people don't paint them. I love eyes.
Everybody's blind.
I love bases. Bases are so much fun. I
I'm
mean, think
gonna
about
start
all
doing
the Adepticons we do. Think about my
bases are
basing.
badass. Listen, you do custom prints and stuff like that for your bases.
Well,
I'm putting on like fly.
This year we're doing normal bases. We're not doing custom base. I'm doing all handmade bases.
Oh, really? Year. I didn't realize that.
And we've done that in the past too.
They do make a big difference.
They make a big difference.
I mean,
our Grey Knight, come on, our Grey Knight bases.
I'm going to say this, and everybody's going to seem like I'm the biggest dummy in the universe, but I know so little about painting and modeling. I didn't realize that just painting the edge of the base, all of the black, would make such a difference in how it looks on the board. I was arguing with Snakes for like an hour, and he goes, "Just do it, and then look at it." And I was like, "Man, why did you tell me this before? This looks way cooler." He's like, "You're such an idiot." I go,
"You always paint your bases black. The rim has to be black."
Yeah, it looks.
There's only one army I'm okay with not painting them black and painting them desert camo gray. Talon Raiders.
Valorant Desert Raiders. Yeah, I was just gonna
That's
say
it.
the guys that come out doing. uh I live my life a quarter mile at a time out of an underground bunker, doing 360 YOLO swag snipers with Lehman Russes. Yeah.
Yeah, that is my favorite. One of my favorite armies I have that I haven't fully built yet,
Oh,
painted.
I'm assuming you know some of the fluff on those guys.
Actually, you know what? I actually don't know the fluff on those
Okay,
guys. I'd
so
love to learn about the
Chaos,
Talon Desert Raiders.
they had made an entire underground network where they were just pumping out tanks, freaking pens, just smashing it out, and they would just keep coming out of these wacky tunnels. The whole land is irradiated, and they just shoot out with Lehman Russes. That's why they used to be able to make turns and move faster than people. And they're just YOLO swagging, shooting guys, and then driving back in. And years and years and years went by. And this all happened like Horus Heresy stuff. So they came down, and then they had to leave, and they basically never effectively sealed the deal. And they have to do a whole hazmat deal because the virus bomb kills all organic, touches it. So these guys would YOLO out and shoot all their, they would literally come out and Tokyo drift and go full throttle, shooting marksman style Lehman Russ rounds at guys. And they just wouldn't give up. And their whole planet's like this Mad Max desert now. It's like Fallout, because of all the shit. But those guys are like, yeah, man, I didn't hear no bell. Like, what? So it's just those. I don't even like ours very much. Those guys are hilarious because they're like, what? They're like, we blew up the planet. You're like, I don't think so, guy. Why don't you come down here and check it out? They just shoot you in the head with a Lehman Russ. I love shit. I love
Yeah.
epic stories in the lore.
And where do you tell these epic stories, Brad?
40K Lorecast, 40KLorecast.com. You can see us on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you download podcasts. You can listen to me because I'm really bad at the five senses and how to market.
That's fantastic. I love it. No, I've always loved Talon Desert Raiders, so I appreciate the story. I always knew they're badasses. But yeah, that's one army that I have all the models I haven't got around to. But Guard in general, I think, are not just the Eldar killer. I think they tackle the meta you just articulated very well. I mean, they have the tanks. You could bring all the right tanks. You could bring all the right artillery. You could bring a bunch of guys. They have strats to leave the board, come on the board, overwatch, fire, shoot on death. I mean,
plus one
it's
wound
insane.
is such a powerful mechanic. It's just bananas. And it's going to be strong. Anytime you have the ability, think about it. Anytime you had just a strat, I mean, Bridge has basically anybody getting out or deep striking gets +1 to wound on infantry guys. They're infantry shooting. And it's such a big deal in that because think about just the armies that you would take just because they had access to some way to get +1 to wound. That was my Salamander 2 editions ago, 8th edition. Playing Salamanders, they had the strat for +1 to wound. And I was like, man, this is so awesome. They can be +1 to wound. And it was a game changer.
Yes. Oh,
it's
yeah,
a big deal.
I loved your Salamander army too. That's a fantastic strat. I mean, that kind of strat's amazing. Whenever you have things that modify. Go ahead.
We painted up all those Marine models I took to the tournament.
Yeah.
All done in that Salamander scheme. We also found, I pulled out one of my old cases. You know what it had? Unicorn bikes, baby.
Unicorn bikes are the best. So I love those things.
The best is the unicorn bike that had a picture of Brad riding a unicorn on the unicorn bike.
Very meta. It's very meta.
Inception.
Inception unicorn.
It's fucking
the action inside of an action.
But one of the things I want to talk about, you brought in Guard, and I know it's a segue, but I'm making this part of our segment for today. We can go back to meta. You can edit this backwards, or you can't. I don't care. I miss having really done up regiments, chapters, craft worlds. That we've got all these like play as you want, the different attachments.
We're losing the flavor.
Yeah, and like you have your Talaran, your guys are Talaran. You have your Bealtan, the dudes were Bealtan. You know what I mean? I brought Salamanders; those are Salamanders. They weren't Firestorm or whatever the hell. You know what I mean? I don't mind missing things if you can make armies have greater strength if you also let them have weaknesses. Like they can be super overpowered in certain aspects, don't let them have access to other things. That's why we had like Blood Angels. Remember when Blood Angels were just so good at charging and doing stuff, but they
Yeah.
had like half the line. Same thing with Space Wolves. Space Wolves had half the models back in the day. I don't know. I really like being this, and I know they're trying to make it broader so they sell more models. They're a model company. They want to sell more stuff. I think eventually they're going to be an IP company, but that's a different cast.
Down the line.
But I like when.
But no, losing the flavor of every army is a big deal. I would argue though that it's probably soul crushing for the authors at Games Workshop to write all of that into the codex and have all of that, because we've had codexes in the past with a ton of flavor. Like you could decide to play the codex however you want, and then someone from GW who probably spent all that time writing that up shows up to a tournament, and the dude's playing Blood Angels with blue Marines, and none of them
Yeah,
are like, like even remotely trying to beat Blood Angels. The guy who's playing, Valharan Imperial Guard is playing with regular Acadian models or, Scions or something,
well,
So
there's
like
got to be something in
it's
between
just
because you can have your own.
crushes people.
Yeah, I mean, but my thing is that you can have your own paint style. You have the Allen Marines, and I'm fine with that. But like, I don't know, just if I want to bring something, I want it to have rules and flavor.
Flavor today.
Hello,
We
what do we get?
are actually
Sponsored by.
sponsored by Holiday Soft Red Wheat Bottle and Bond, one of my favorites. This is actually, I believe, out of Missouri, and it is a 73 corn percent, 15% wheat, and a 12% barley. And this bottle is roughly around like, I think, $60 MSRP in our area, and you can find it pretty easily. And it is a fantastic, fantastic drink. I just wanted to let everyone know.
You know what I want to let people know? What is our display board going to be for this year's 2025 Adepticon Team Tournament?
Well, when you come over, I will grab a pencil and I will
Oh,
draw
yeah,
on
you're gonna
some
hurt
pink
my
foam.
you're gonna hurt my soul again. You know what? This is story time. I showed up on Wednesday at Alan's house. The tournament is on Saturday. I've been harassing him what it's going to be, and I had my ideas of what I wanted it to be. It was supposed to be this. There was the tree here, and I wanted it to be the certain thing. And Alan's like, "No problem." And I'm like, "Dude, you haven't figured out any of the logistics. You just have what I asked if you could make, and you said yes." And he's like, "Don't worry, I've got it. I've got it, bro." And I'm like, because he's a dick, he goes, "Hey," because he knew I was really worried about it. And he gets real excited. He gets me really excited. He's like, "Dude, you ready? You want to see what I've got done so far?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, it's going to be awesome. I've got it in the garage." We go out to the garage. He's got a piece of pink foam sitting, and he takes a pencil and draws a circle on the pink foam and goes, "That is what I've got done for the display board so far." And I go, "Well, I mean, we had a good run. I guess we're just not playing this year. I don't really know what's happening." And I don't know what happened because you just decided to pull a 24-hour shift and made a 10-foot, no, what was it? 9 foot? 10 foot?
Like a, yeah.
Yeah. I still can't believe that happened.
Yeah. No, I mean, this year we're well ahead of schedule. We've been working on models. So
Yeah.
we always knew we were going to play Exodites. So we were worried that the Eldar Codex would come out and be too strong. And then we would have a problem with theme and comp. And then we were kind of worried that the Eldar Codex wouldn't come out at all. So we didn't know which one was worse. If it didn't come out at all, that'd be really tough. If it came out and it was too strong, that'd be really tough. I think it came out and it's just right. I think it's perfect.
Well, we
I
also
think
made
it's,
it. Let's talk about the restrictions we placed on ourselves.
yeah, we have.
So we actually really, 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 wait for it, really want to win. We've had a couple second places in a row after a string of wins. But we want to get back to the winner's circle. And one of the biggest things is theme and comp. Presentation is a big thing. We wanted to make sure we got the best possible. And Alan goes, "I know you just said that you think that the Eldar book is in a great, fair place." And he goes, "Yeah, that's fair and balanced and everything. But we have 4 1,000 point armies. I don't want to see the same unit twice. Not like in one list, In all 4,000 points, I wasn't allowed to use any unit more than one time,
Yeah, it's Highlander approach.
which
I feel like comp is extremely subjective, just speaking factually, and a
judges
lot of
also
work.
do that sometimes.
Well, we do a lot of work to try to keep it in mind while still trying to maintain a competitive edge because, we're trying to do good. We also try to keep everything very thematic. We might be more old school Adepticon team tournament guys, but we try not to merge types. Even the battles sometimes are kind of forced and they create weird interactions on the table. So we try to keep things kind of one codex. Everyone takes a different usually. And then we also try to make sure that we take into consideration the comp. So like last year, no one took a second unit. We took a lot of competitive stuff out. We try not to spam as much as possible with our Necrons, but our whole army was converted for old ones. So we thought that was a really cool theme.
I
And
love it.
I've never seen anyone do it before. And since it was old
Yeah.
ones, we wanted to use models that like looked different, right? Because the old ones are a whole like no one knows what
No one
old
knows
ones
what
look
they look
like.
like.
And we did the war of the old ones and the Necron tier,
War in heavens.
the war in heaven, and we created a bunch of CTANs. All of our wraiths were either old one generals or CTAN models. So it's really, really fun conversion wise. And took a long time picking the right models, trying to design squads that looked similar, but they were very different models. They're like the 5-man unit of wraiths, every single model is different in the whole 5-man unit. But they looked and were painted in the same color scheme. So they looked cohesive, but they were different models. And then we had all of our bases were color coded so that you knew whose army was whose. So it made a lot of sense. Our opponents loved it, but it just didn't resonate as well with the
The
judges
judges.
last year. And then the year before that, we switched off guard intentionally because they
You
were
guys will
really
never let me
powerful.
go.
They were really strong, and we were going guard the whole year, and we switched off like mid-Feb to play World Eaters because I was working on a World Eaters army anyways, and we did our theme was the history of Angron and all of his different lives, and we took a very cool, very balanced World Eaters army at the time, which I would argue was extremely non-competitive in Adepticon terrain at that time. I know Adepticon has stepped up their terrain.
100%. At the time, it was wildly open to.
Yeah. And we did great. And we played the Canadian guys who are great guys in the very last game. And they had like 16 Lehman Russes across the 14. Like they had all the Lehman Russes with all the plasma executioners in the world.
Well,
Guys, whatever those guys
yeah.
are called.
Well, to be fair, you guys never let me live it down. They were playing the list that we had been practicing and playing with.
No, they were playing a version of a list that we said
was
we would
even
never
worse.
bring. Right? Because they had all the Carrickasons, they had the Scout Sentinels, they had all the Lehman Russes, they had everything. It was like mass spam of all the best possible things you could take. And those guys are really smart. They know how Adepticon works. We played our game. They knew they got best general. They were like, all right, we got best general because we were top table last round. And they beat us. They beat us on one table, and one table we beat them. But overall, they had more points. So they ended up winning. And we were like, okay, these guys are going to win general, most likely, it looks like. They crushed pretty much everyone. And the tables we played on, literally at that time, I'm so happy that Adepticon fixed the terrain. We were playing on Planet Bowling Ball. So it was terrible. But anyways, like they were of the impression like, okay, they're going to get destroyed on comp, and which they should have, in my opinion. I still think that's true, but they definitely deserved, the generalship for sure. They ended up winning overall, and we got second. It was very surprising for me. I was shocked because I thought our paint was good that year. I thought everything was good. So this year we're really coming at it from a different perspective. That's why, Brad, I said I want a Highlander approach. I don't want I want to be as it's still subjective, so it still doesn't really matter. Still can go any way, right? Like I don't really know, but I want to have a really solid theme that's really fun. I want to have converted models. I want to do our very best in painting, and I want to have that competitive component, something that we thought about and that we clearly thought about. So we take all the stuff, regardless of whether it's good or bad, right? I told you I want a Crimson Hunter or some kind of flyer in the list. And you're like, no, flyers suck. I'm like, no, put it in the list.
So much.
So yeah, so like I want to make sure that we have at least done our due diligence to come as comp forward as possible, but still maintain somewhat of a competitive edge. Because if you go completely comp, it's really tough to try to get that battle spot.
We are bringing every Phoenix Lord that's available.
Well, we don't know that for sure yet because that kind of hasn't happened. But yeah, this is the plan.
We're saying this is Florida. Like, screw this. Write it down in blood on stone.
I don't know. Elliot's pretty confident that like regardless of what you take, comp's always going to be an issue for the top codexes. Like
Yes and no, but if you straight up say, "I've taken one of everything," I
I'm
feel
hoping, I'm
very
hoping,
strong.
I'm hoping that resonates. I'm hoping that does resonate. But you might want to show up and
If
say like, someone might just remember the days of the Wraith Knight rolling sixes to wound and just incinerating 6d6 models, and they're like, you
that
know what? You need to pay for those sins today. And I'm like, dude,
carry
I didn't
over,
make the book. I don't know. I didn't even play the army then. I was taking care of a
and
baby.
neither did I think 'cause it was too dumb. It I didn't wanna show up and have people go, "Ugh, I guess we're not
Ugh.
having fun today." Yeah, that army was just oppressive when it first came out.
But I actually think Guard are still like they're such a good team tournament list for Adepticon.
I
I will go out on a limb right now and say that the best general of Adepticon 2025 is gonna be Guard. I just say that right now.
I wouldn't refute that because I really think that not only is it a super powerful book, tons of killing, but it also plays the Adepticon missions crazy well because they often say that you have to have a unit from both players, Nelson Point. And Guard has so many idiots there too. All those infantry squads and things of that nature, they work very well. They synergize together, especially in Adepticon. So I think that that's an army that can really put up some big points.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's such a synergy based army where I'm sure there's going to be a team that just comes, rinse and repeats pretty much the same 1,000 point list across all four guys. And it's going to be very simple to like interchange characters, move things around a little bit, and you're just scoring
Right.
like crazy. Put different units in different vehicles. Like it's gonna be easy,
100%.
easy.
I agree. I
So,
agree with you on that one. That's just a super strong army. And it gets even stronger in that format.
yeah, Adepticon team tournament format really favors, I think, guard, orcs,
Or
like those like armies that like inevitably just always kind of seem underpowered even when they are powered, and like they do a really good job of playing the game in the Adepticon mission format. They do a really good job of like switching units. Like for example, we go Highlander, we take some Phoenix Lords, right? The dude with the Phoenix Lord in the unit, you're not gonna put it nowhere else, like that's how that's gonna work,
that's where he's going. It's the only
Yeah.
person you can
So
attach to.
yeah,
You're like,
exactly.
hey man, it's not like
So
a mystery. Hey, where's Baharoth going?
yeah.
I'm going out. I'm all in on swooping hawks.
Yeah. So yeah, no, but I'm still super stoked. And I think I'm interested to see how much guard does take over the meta. I'm also curious, like where competitive, like I don't know any of the competitive guys these days, really. I know you do, but I'm curious, like where the competitive players go. I almost wish stats. Like here's what grinds my gears. I'll go into that real quick. So
Uh-oh.
stats wise, right? So stats wise, it's really important to separate skill levels. The fact that I think there is an elo. Is there an elo stat
There's
now?
there's multiple elos. There's elo, but there's also elo against you're basically elo against other people. I guess that's how
That's
elo is.
great. So like that kind of stuff makes the whole thing a lot better, right? When we just say this book is winning this percentage by taking just arbitrary, like, how many people play it, how many times they win, how many games there are, and that stuff, like,
And any of the high end
super
lists are
simple.
so much different. Elder's always been like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
How is the regular person winning against the people that play it at the top end? Some armies can be abusive. You know what I mean? When they're at the
Yeah. No,
top
I
end,
think it's really
they have to
cool.
break.
Whoever's doing the elo thing, that would be great. Yeah. So like comparing players' win rate should go into a calculation or some type of equation to give them a general ranking. And then once every player has a ranking based on their win rate for the last year, be pretty consistent, right? Like my rank should be 0. Doesn't matter my past. Like I haven't played in a tournament, so I should be 0, right? But if you played in 5, 6, 7 tournaments, you should have a ranking that goes off of some
This
formula.
probably be like a 2, 3 year window because the tournaments are just not a lot, even
As
if you're
long as
playing.
as long as you're not crossing, I mean, yeah, 2, 3 windows okay. I
As
think
long as
it's
you're not
fine.
crossing addition, I guess.
It's fine. Okay.
But you have to
Um,
do a little bit of thing on that because some people go to all their tournaments in like a 6 month span. You know what I mean?
yeah, correct. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
of
Well,
work,
also
school,
also I
family, whatever.
guess I guess hypothetically, depending on how granular you want to get, you could also look at the player and faction as a combo. Like you could have an elo as Brad playing Eldar, and then an elo as Brad playing Orcs, and an elo
The breakdown.
Chaos or something like that. Like so it could get really complicated, but it is important to compare somewhat apples to apples. So having players ranked helps out a lot because if you have a player who's ranked 1054 and he plays the guy who's 77th and he wins, that should be a huge thing. Whereas if the guy who's 74 beats the dude who's 1,175, that should be
You
almost
should have won.
irrelevant. That should be
Right.
that's like that
And
is
it's
99 like, if you're betting in, like, the app, like, that should be, like, very little money if you like, way less than your I don't know, negative 1,100 odds or something like that, like, very low. So that's where I'm coming from. I think that's, like, a really important thing to consider because, like, I think certain people prop up codex wins. Like, there's just players who just don't lose and go to a lot of events, and then therefore the army looks a lot better than it really is. Also, I think if you have a codex that has one way to play it and everyone's playing it the same one way, and it's got a high win percentage, it's not the codex problem. It's like a component of that
it's
list.
yeah, it's part of the and the
Yeah.
thing is you don't wanna kill those either. I just think that we need to nerf I said it before, and it made me think of it when you said that, but we need to nerf in increments. We need to nerf more often, but it has to be small. Let the meta change. There's certain things that are obvious, and then there's certain things that are just let the meta change. I think there's a ton of armies that we came out swinging on, and they eventually just the meta changed around it. Sometimes it takes a little while to figure out how to place them, and then the meta gets it. They start to understand, and you see it happen pretty quick. As soon as somebody figures it out, the internet just exists, and you can either watch a game,
Yeah,
read an
now
article about somebody, whatever. It's out there now.
I wonder, I wasn't really probably a little bit. I was kind of like a person who looked at things like that. I don't know what that's called, like a lurker.
A
Um,
lurker.
yeah, back in like the 2000s, but there really wasn't anywhere near as much information as there is today
Oh,
on the
I,
game, like before 2015.
I
And
have
and like you could think all these guys like the Art of War and Vanguard Tactics, and I mean, you now
Goonhammer,
doing your own thing.
all those people.
Hammer, yeah, Goonhammer. Oh my god, dude, the quality that's coming out of there. I think they all kind of, in my opinion, they all kinda took what Frontline was, like, kinda doing and went to the next level. Like, Frontline kind of
100%.
paved that roadmap for everyone.
And
Was
they're breaking it
April,
down.
15 years ago in their
Yeah. And,
store with
it,
the door
and it's a
ticking
big deal on that
and
because
buses
you got to
going
think
by.
if people are putting in the time and effort, you don't have to agree with them. They're just putting out their tactical opinion, basically.
No, it's
And
really
that's
cool.
fine.
I think
But I like
GW
it.
owns I think GW owns all of you guys. That's why I say you guys because 'cause you're a big part of that, Brad. I think Games Workshop owes you guys a huge, like, debt, in my opinion. Like, without FLG and without all these individual institutions, like, coaching and creating content and, like, I mean, taking the whole thing very seriously, like, this I don't think the tournament scene would be anywhere near, what it is now. It's significant, man.
If my arms weren't so short, I would pat myself on my back, but I cannot reach.
You know what I wanna do? I have a curious question. So when you come over to the house, I'm gonna measure you height-wise, exactly, like your exact height,
I don't
and then
want to
I'm
know. I think I've
and then
shrank.
I'm gonna measure your wingspan, right? And
Oh, dude,
I'm gonna see what the percentage is of your wingspan to your height. Do it
my
to me too.
wingspan might
No, no,
be
no, but I'm gonna do it to
42.
me too. I think I'm gonna go out on a limb on the cast right
You
now.
can tie your shoes without bending over.
I think my guess is that my percentage is actually lower than yours.
You're high in crack cocaine.
How much you
You
wanna
should
bet?
get.
We
I got
bet
like my net worth is $11. What do you think will
buy
get?
a bottle of Holiday.
How I can do that?
Okay, so we bet a bottle of Ben Holiday, soft red wheat, or any of the bottle in bonds, and we'll see. Because 'cause I'm curious now. And if you win, I'll use the whole bottle to make you bourbon smashes.
Yes, victory for Brad. Victory dance. Call my mom and tell her I won this bet already.
Oh, man, that's funny.
Did I tell you my
Oh,
peak athlete before we go?
no,
I
go ahead.
showed you what peak athletic performance is.
Mm.
I'm ball walking with my mom. That's what peak athletic performance is.
Explain this to me. Mall walking with your mom. How First of all, how old is your mom?
She is 69.
Okay, and she's mall walking, and when do you like, how big is the mall? Is the mall you walk in indoors?
Yeah. I mean, it's
Okay.
not like some outdoor fish market or something, man. It's freezing out.
We have amazing outdoor malls here in Chicago. I don't know why we have amazing outdoor malls in Chicago, but we
Why would
do.
you want to have an outdoor mall?
Place and they're
You
nice.
probably got a great sale because you use the money of the person that died because they went to an outdoor mall in February in
They're like
Chicago.
Jack Nicholson from The Shining.
The Shining. It's just like it's a pretty good deal. Why? Because they're all dead.
Yeah, no, that is actually kind of weird now that I think about it. So you're mall walking with your mom. And walk me through it. What do you guys talk about?
I don't know. We just hang out. My mom and I are boys.
Do you like listen to something while you do the mall walk, or are you just
Yeah.
mall walking?
I talk at her a lot.
Do you go an hour, 45
Or
hour,
no,
an hour of mall walking, stairs or escalators?
man, I'm with my mom, dude.
So escalators.
Escalators. No, we just
Okay.
walk the perimeter multiple
Oh, you just
times.
walk the perimeter. You don't go up at all. Does the mall
No,
have multiple levels?
doesn't even have multiple levels. It has another level, which would make you go into a movie theater, which would end the mall walking experience.
Is this the same mall you used to work at when you were at AT&T throwing phones at people?
I never worked at the mall, but I love that you made this up and kept saying it. What all do you say we were doing? We were running behind people like the Vegas guys that try to get you to go to.
Yeah, I used to call you the Vegas guy that used to that
It
like
flicks the cards at you.
he flicks the cards, you know the cards. He flicks the cards. He's trying to get you to take one. That's
I
Brad,
love
dude, but
this.
at the mall with the phones. He's like, "Hey, we're at AT&T here, man. We got the iPhone 7. Get over here, get this thing, you know?"
Like, come on, buddy.
Flick, 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 flick. When it was a sidekick, you were able to flick the phone itself. You were like, "Click, click, click."
Oh, Jesus.
So display board, I'll close it with display board. You asked me earlier, what is gonna be our display board? I gave you a joke, but what I would like to do is I'll think about exactly how I wanna create it. But my vision, and I've always wanted to do an Exodite army. So when we decided to do this, I jumped on it right away. But I want to make the
With
Exodite
dinosaurs?
world. Yeah, dude, seriously. I want to make an Exodite maiden world and a scene within that maiden world. So I kind of want to build the whole thing. Like, what do you think would be in an Eldar city in a maiden world full of Exodites?
Well,
Where does your brain go?
you have to have the world circuit, the world gate, like places
Yeah.
to exercise.
Okay.
For sure,
Okay.
we have some sort of almost Aztec pyramid almost with dinosaurs
Okay.
around. And
Aztec pyramid. Okay. I wasn't going that
well,
direction, but okay.
something that gives you that because instead of the infinity circuit, they have the world circuit. Yeah, that
Yeah, yeah, but I
they
was
can
thinking
see.
those were like those. I'll send you a picture. I think the world circuit is still stone like and attached to
Yeah,
the ground, very
100%.
Avatar esque.
Well, I was thinking like a smaller, like,
Well,
something that they can run.
I didn't have a pyramid in mind. I'm not very like Aztecian, but that's a good idea. I'm not throwing it down. Now I have to consider that idea. But I was thinking like waterfalls, water elements, lots of trees, lots of green, lots of shrubs, maybe some cool buildings that kind of look elfy, sort of like a mixture of Lord of the Rings and Wood Elves kind of come together.
What are you gonna do about this is one of the things that I've always thought is gonna be really hard to do
Mm.
because the Exodite worlds have a weird mix of technology, but not having all of the old technology at the same time. It's not like these guys are in wooden shacks. They're they still have bright lances and other things. They've got,
Yeah. Yeah.
infinity circuit engine, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They've got
Yeah.
all this like really wild sci-fi Eldar stuff, but they also have dinosaurs that they're riding and
So
you know,
in my mind, I can't go full Eldar terrain. Like you know what Eldar terrain looks.
yep,
I don't think that works. I think we have to go kind of a mixture of not a shack, but that like medieval elf like structures of buildings. Maybe like a
like
windmill,
like a
maybe
Rivendell type thing.
like a Rivendell type of thing. Yeah, exactly like a Rivendell type of thing. You know, like canopy kind of style stuff, probably stone buildings, you know, stone
Well, Wraithbone. See, they still sing it into it.
we could definitely make the stone look like Wraithbone. We can paint it that way, so that's not a problem. And we can incorporate some Eldar bits and possibly some Eldar-esque terrain, but like sprinkle it in. So like the vast majority of the terrain looks like it was made for nature because we want the Exodites to live in a city where they feel like, they escaped the idea of having everything. Like that's really the point, right? They're supposed to be this like holy people almost. So we
Well,
want
they're
to make
trying to
them
make
look.
things just better. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
trying to get back to a simpler time where they were basically were before corruption and whatnot.
Yeah. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking very, very green, very nature, very, very friendly. I want to make it look nice.
Druidic.
Yeah, maybe like a council section, maybe like a stone area. We'll see. I'm excited though. I'm pumped. Dinosaurs are always
I'm
cool.
very excited.
So I'm really good. I'm going to have a lot of fun. So, anyways, that concludes today's chapter of the 416 podcast. If you like the show, please hit the thumbs up button. It helps Brad because it makes him feel better about himself. If you want
That's
to
important.
subscribe, that is important. If you want to subscribe to know when we have regular podcasts come out, feel free to subscribe. And if you want to support the show, join our Patreon and buy Brad a cup of coffee, help him with heart surgery, whatever you can do helps out. So we really appreciate it. Take
I
care.
do.
My name is Pajama Pants. That's Brad Chester.
It's gone.
And we're out.
I'm